Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Veronica, and my goal is to help you go from feeling like the victim of your reality to the creator of it, so you can finally live the life you desire and deserve. If you've watched a video of mine before, welcome back. And today I want to talk about how guilt is blocking us from the abundance that we desire. And I'm going to give a personal story. This is something that happened to me just the other day, and I had this realization of how guilt was blocking me from abundance. And to be honest, it was a light bulb moment of realizing how much guilt I still feel, how much guilt I am holding on to that wasn't even conscious for me. So the other day I was driving to the studio to take a yoga class, and I'm stopped at a light, and there's someone standing there with a sign asking for money. And I decided I was going to give her the dollar that I had in my wallet, and I only had one single dollar on me. So I was kind of giving myself this little pep talk before I handed her the dollar, telling myself, don't apologize. Because not too long ago, I had given someone who was standing outside of the convenience store I went into, I'd given them the change that I had, and it was the only money I had on me. And when I handed it to them, I apologized for it being all that I had. And afterwards, I was thinking to myself, like, why am I apologizing? I'm giving someone something that I don't have to give them. And I think that really comes from just in general, as women, we tend to apologize for things we have no business apologizing for. Someone bumps into us and we say sorry. So that is a habit that I'm trying to break. So, in this moment in the car, I'm telling myself, like, don't apologize. It's okay that you only have a dollar. Like, it's better than nothing, kind of thing. Like, you don't need to apologize. So, I stick my hand out the window to hand her this dollar, and I don't know if I apologized or not. I don't remember, to be honest. But I drive away after handing her the dollar, and I'm starting to feel like, I'm still feeling bad. And that interaction left me feeling, okay, so what had happened about 2 weeks prior was I'd gone to the grocery store, and a random man came up to me, and he asked me, he said something like, "Hey, young lady, do you think you could put this to good use?" And he handed me $100 bill. And right before I left to go to the grocery store, I was thinking about, what do I want to train my brain to see more of? What do I want to train my reticular activating system to see more of in my reality? And my thought was, I want to see more opportunities for abundance. I want to see more abundance. I want to see more opportunities for making money. Didn't think much else of it. Left the house to run errands and get groceries, and this man hands me $100 bill. So after I handed this woman a dollar, I started thinking to myself, like, oh, that $100 bill that I was given, I should have given more of that away. Like, I can't believe I got $100 and, I'm only giving $1 away. So I'm starting to beat myself up. And, I get to the studio, and I'm conscious of this, that I'm like beating myself up. So I'm trying to change this narrative. I'm trying to pull myself out of this story. And I get to the studio, and the class begins, and the yoga instructor asks us all to set an intention for the class. And she asked us to create like an I am statement. And what came up for me was, I am unstoppable. And that felt very random to me. Like, I was like, unstoppable. Like, that's never a word I think of, like, that I really aspire to be. I was like, okay, whatever. And she says, think of what do you need to let go of? And immediately what came up was guilt. And again, my reaction was kind of like, oh, that's interesting. Okay. Didn't realize that I felt that much guilt, like that I need to release guilt. Don't think much else of it. I'm in the class, I'm, trying to be present. So towards the end of the class, she brings up the intentions that we set. She reminds us of it. And I'm laying on my mat and I realize, oh, I had so much guilt about the money that I received. I had so much guilt about that $100 that I received, guilt that I held on to it, or guilt that I used it instead of giving it away. And, guilt that I didn't give this person more money. And I realized I'm not going to receive the abundance that I desire when I still am holding on to this much guilt for what I do have. And that was just like this aha moment of waking up, realizing how much guilt that I've repressed, really, that has been in my subconscious. And realizing this feeling has got to go if I want to receive the abundance that I desire. When we consider this from an emotional frequency perspective, it makes sense. Of course, we can't receive the abundance we desire if we're feeling guilt, because guilt is the second to last emotion on the emotional frequency scale. I can't remember what the very bottom of the scale is, if it's fear, but the second from the bottom, guilt, is one of those emotions. And when we think about abundance, and for me, like abundance, I correlate with the feelings of freedom, love, appreciation. And those are emotions that are at the very, very top of the frequency scale. Like the highest you can go, or the second highest up there, with the most, say, expansive feelings. The feelings that have the highest frequency, right? So if we are physically holding on to emotions that are at the bottom of the scale, but we want something that's at the top of the scale, it's most likely not going to happen. We need to pull ourselves out of that emotional frequency of guilt. We need to release that repressed emotion from our body, clear that out so that our state of being isn't down here anymore, and we can come up here and receive that abundance. We need to be vibrating at the same frequency as that abundance for it to come into our reality, right? So, if this is resonating, if you are feeling like you've been holding on to a lot of guilt for what you do have, this is your invitation to work through that guilt and let that guilt go. Question, where does this guilt come from? Who made me feel guilty for what I have? Why do I believe that that's true? That I shouldn't have what I desire. And on this topic of money and, being handed money and receiving abundance, I was thinking about someone that I used to work with who, okay, another story. I will say I am working on sharing more of my own personal experiences on the internet. If you are into human design, I'm a 6 line, I'm a 6/2 projector, and I think that I can really get caught and stuck in that 5 line energy of the teacher when I'm here to share my experiences. So I'm working on that. So what I was reflecting on was this person that I used to work with, and how I think she had told me before she took this job where we worked together that she hadn't worked for like over a year because she hadn't needed to. People just gave her money. People just bought her things that she needed, paid for the place she was living. She was always going on vacations. And as I was reflecting on this, I was thinking, or realizing, oh, because that's her identity. That is what she expects. That is how she views herself. I'm imagining there is no guilt. She does not hold any guilt. She does not feel any guilt for what she's receiving. She expects it. She knows that she's worthy of it. She knows that it is her, consciously or unconsciously, I don't know, she knows it is her birthright to be abundant. And I was reflecting back on that period of time when I worked that job and my mindset around money. And, I really didn't expect it. It was constantly the stressor in my life. But it had me thinking to when I briefly dated someone who made a lot of money. Like, his monthly budget for eating out was more than I'd ever made a month in my life. And we would go places and I would just feel like, oh, I don't belong here. I'm a fraud. Like, someone's going to find out I don't really belong here. And that relationship ended because it was toxic and, things not related to money at all. But looking back, I can see the correlation of like, oh, of course that didn't last long because I was not on that level, that frequency of being surrounded by a lot of money. I was not on that level of abundance. I did not view myself as someone who was worthy of receiving all of these things. And, I think some of that, some of it was definitely conscious, where I was saying I'm a fraud, I don't belong here. I think the worthiness piece was more subconscious. That was definitely a period of my life where I was working on being able to receive more and not feel guilt for it, or not feel like, oh, I need to pay this person back, or tell them, no, I can't receive this. Like, I don't want it. So I was doing that work consciously, but clearly now, years later, I'm realizing how much guilt that I still have within me that needs to be worked through. Our ability to receive abundance is directly correlated with, who we believe we are, if we believe we're worthy of it, and our energetic state, the thoughts and the feelings that we have around money, or abundance in general, because abundance can come in many different forms. It doesn't have to only be financial. So if you are also holding on to guilt when it comes to receiving, if you feel guilty for receiving money, receiving someone's time, someone's attention, someone's help, any form of receiving, any form of abundance, if you feel guilty, can you sit with that feeling? Can you sit with that emotion and allow yourself to really truly feel it? Because that is how we release emotions, by feeling them, by leaning in and allowing ourselves to fully experience that emotion. And can you question, where is this guilt coming from? There's most likely a subconscious belief tied to the guilt, where someone once upon a time made you feel guilty for receiving, or told you, it's bad to receive, or a similar story. So can you sit with that? Can you question it and begin to unpack and rewrite those stories? Because continuing to hold on to this guilt will prevent you from stepping into and receiving the abundance that you deserve. While I hope you don't feel guilty, I hope that if you resonate with this, it was helpful to hear my story. And let me know what you think of this kind of video. Like I said, I'm working on sharing more of my own personal stories and stepping out of that teacher energy. If you're looking to shift your identity to someone who is abundant, who receives abundance with no guilt, consider joining my free community and course, Aligned. This course is all about the basics of reality creation. I break down the foundation of reality creation. I go into why our identity is crucial when it comes to creating our reality. and walk you through the first step of my reality creation process, which is all about getting super clear on your desired reality and the version of you that lives in that reality, so that you can begin to align your identity and your self-concept with that version of you, because that truly is the most important thing when it comes to reality creation, is stepping into the identity of the person, the version of you who's living in the reality that you desire. So we talk about nervous system work, our state of being, how to shift your thoughts and your feelings. I go into subconscious beliefs. I talk about what sabotages our identity. I'm really proud of this free course. So if you're looking to shift your identity and learn the foundation of reality creation, you can join my free community. I will put the link in the description of this video below. Thanks for watching.